again click on confirm, and I can click on share. So the user did an acknowledgement that I'm okay to give this credential. User has given the confirmation, and you can see the application in the background within a flash accepted the credential, took the claims, and when I click on continue onboarding, you can say that the user details were taken from the card. And as a process, uh, this could be your HR application, which is integrated with Entra ID or Azure AD. So the claims from the card were used to not only create an entry in the Workday, SuccessFactors, or any such HCM application, but using that existing connector of yours, it could then create a directory object as well. Now, the demo doesn't stop here. The demo
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 425 Show. I'm Grace Picking, a product manager in the Microsoft Identity Customer Experience team, and I will be your host for today's episode, all about decentralized identity. As ever, I'll be here to take all of your questions and comments as they come in live and direct, but most importantly, with me today, I have two experts to give you an overview of the concept of decentralized ID, what Microsoft Entra Verified ID is, some of those common scenarios, real life examples, and of course, how you can actually get started in deploying verified ID. So, Karthik and Rohit, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. Rohit, go first.
Thank you, Grace. Hi, everyone. My name is Rohit Gulati. I'm a product manager as well in Microsoft Entra team. I focus on verified ID as a service. I'm based out of London, and I work with customers and partners in this space. Karthik?
Hi, thanks, Grace, and thanks, Rohit. So I'm from the Identity Ace team within Microsoft. I work with customers again on their Azure AD as well as uh, decentralized identity portfolio and their adoption. I've been closely working with Rohit for more than a year, bugging him on all this and helping customers on the adoption. So it's great to meet everyone. Yeah.
Amazing. And it's not just you that bugs him about this, it's me as well. So don't worry, you're not alone there. Awesome. All right, without further ado then, what is decentralized identity? I'm dying to know a little bit more, and I'm sure our audience is too.
Thank you, Grace, and thank you for teeing away the conversation. So what is decentralized identity and what is Microsoft doing in this space? So let's start with that, and then we'll build on it. We'll talk about what we're offering as a service. I'm going to use a set of slides to bind the content, but it is your talk, so please post your questions, and we will answer those questions as we go along. So starting with, is it something new? Did Microsoft start on this very recently? So as a group of engineers, we started on this initiative in 2018 with the hypothesis saying that each of us need a digital identity that we own and control. This is a standard definition, but we aligned it to make sure that we are uh, building something which is true to this hypothesis, building something where a self-owned identity can seamlessly integrate into our lives, connect to the existing apps, and also give an individual control over the data, how their identity is getting used and accessed. So that was the hypothesis that with which we started building this service. In August 2022, we had announced a general availability of this service, keeping the same hypothesis in this mind. And when you look at our offering, we call it as Entra Verified ID. It's a managed service for issuing and verifying verifiable credential. So I started with the term decentralized identity, but then I moved on to a term verifiable credential. So let's get to the weeds of it and what does it really mean. And if you look at what I'm presenting now on my screen, I'm showing an application which all of us use and most of us use in our professional and personal lives. We've been using Authenticator app for MFA, multi-factor authentication, passwordless scenarios. But we thought that can we use the same application and bring in decentralized identity experiences into it using the same app? Can a user use something like a digital card that brings in verifiability for a user. It is just not about storing the card in the mobile application, but it is also about the element of transparency. Can the whole process be convenient for an user? So we kept all these principles in mind and started building this service. And now this service is generally available. Now, when we speak to customers, the thing that we emphasize on is it's not something that we have built only for Microsoft. It is based on open standards. So this slide that I'm presenting is a busy slide. You can see some acronyms at the bottom: Decentralized Identity Foundation, W3C Claims and Credential Group. These are community groups. Microsoft is one of the contributors to this group. We look at standards and spec. We contribute to such spec. And there are elements and objects on the slide where you see some standards are listed. So there's a user agent conversation. Then there is a W3C verifiable credential spec. And then for our issuance and verification flows, we use the OpenID Connect, SIOP. And then there are elements like Resolver and Identity Hub. I'm not going to go into details of each of these objects, but what I want to highlight, we have selected standards and specs from DIF, W3C, OpenID Connect Foundation, IETF, and we've built a service that is based on open standards. Uh, we've also worked on an interop profile, and we'll share a link at the end that as a customer or an implementer, you can select to choose the same standards and then present the verifiable credential to a Microsoft Reliant party. So we are committed to use open standards, and that's how we model our service. Now, I've been talking about standards and spec, and I spoke about verifiable credential, decentralized identity. But let me just do a quick rundown on what does this really mean. And when someone is looking at verifiable credential flow, what kind of terminologies you will use here and how does it really work. So I'm sharing a diagram. Uh, it has certain references. Uh, and the flow that I'm going to talk about is a pattern that most of the implementers use when they are using verifiable credential. There's nothing Microsoft about this diagram or pattern. Only the Microsoft logo is on the slide. So if you remove this logo, you can use it for any kind of discussion. So when we talk about the use of verifiable credential, we talk about three actors. User is always in the middle, user or holder. Then we talk about an entity called issuer. And you can imagine who is issuer. Issuer is an entity that can attest an information about a subject. Verifier is an entity that is represented on the right side of the diagram. Verifier is an entity, think of it like a relying party. That could be, let's say, a line of business app. It could be, let's say, an application on the internet. And I'm going to use a demo scenario to explain. So when you start using this particular pattern and in this actor representation, each of the entity, they get DID. And DID is not decentralized identity, but decentralized identifier. So each of the actor gets a decentralized identifier, and it creates they create a pair of asymmetric keys. So you can see there is a key representation next to issuer. So issuer has its public key private key pair. User has its public key private key pair. Fabricam verifier has its public key private key pair. So let me just explain this diagram through a scenario. The scenario could be I'm a user employed at Woodgrove, and I need to maybe apply, let's say, a mortgage. And the bank is saying to me, hey, Rohit, can you give me your proof of employment? In the current scenario, there are only two options. Either I give them a paper format of proof of employment, or the bank may have a federation set up with my employer. But in a decentralized pattern where there is no such line of sight between the bank and my employer, how can verifiable credential help? So let's use that use case. So as a user, I will go to my employer, which is Woodgrove in this case, and I'll ask Woodgrove, hey, Woodgrove, can you give me my proof of employment credential? As I said, issuer is that entity that can attest claims for the subject. Subject in this case is me. So issuer can ask me, hey, I can give you your proof of employment if you authenticate against my directory. That could be one way of attesting you, or go through an identity proofing process, upload a document, take a selfie, I'll do a match using OCR scan, and then I take data and attest to you. So issuer can bring in any type of such attestation, and then once issuer is happy, it can issue a verifiable credential. The card that you see in the first screen titled as verifiable credential. But if you look at the details of it, there are certain yellow highlights on the screen. It is issued by Woodgrove. It is meant for subject. It has a bunch of claims like my title and my employment date. And issuer has signed this credential using its private key. Now, I'm sure folks, you all are coming from the PGP world. So you know if I am signing something using my private key, I need to make sure my public key material is available so that the other party can use that. So Woodgrove, in that case, will make sure they record their public key material on a trust system. And that is what is represented in the bottom line. Now, as a user, I accept this credential. I can store this in my digital wallet application. And now I can go to the bank and say, hey, bank, I can present my proof of employment credential to you. At the time, bank can throw a challenge to the user. OK, if you're ready, present your credential. User can then submit that credential, the right arrow that you see on the section, the proof of employment presentation of the credential. There's one extra line that you see on the flow. User has also signed this credential using its private key. User is behaving like an identity provider. So user has presented the credential to Fabricam. Now, when Fabricam receives this credential, Fabricam will check, uh, is this a credential coming from a legible issuer? Is the user giving me an active credential, expired credential, or a revoked credential? If it is an active credential, I will take the credential and then accept the credential and take the payload, which is the claims value set, and then apply my business logic. So if you look at this whole flow, when I was checking the state of the credential, I had to use the PGP flow. So I did a lookup of that public key material. I did a public key, private key, PGP flow. I was able to decrypt the credential, check the state, and apply the business logic based on claims. There's no line of sight between Woodgrove and Fabricam. Fabricam had used a model where it could do a lookup, validate the entity, validate the credential, and accept the credential. So at a high level, verifiable credential ecosystem exchange works like this. How we have implemented it and what we have implemented it, let's just talk about our service. So on the service side, as I said, it's a managed service that we are offering. So you can onboard verified ID using the Entra Admin Center, or if you're still using the Microsoft Azure portal, you can use that to onboard the service. Our slide has a admin experience screen where it allows you to create a definition of the credential. That's why the screen says create a new credential. So you can be an issuer, you can be a verifier, or you may have both the roles. Like a scenario could be you're an employer, you're issuing credentials to your employees, but you may have a line of business app that may ask the user to present their employment credential. Maybe let's say you're building management app where if an employee has forgotten their plastic card, they can present their employee credentials so that they can be issued a temporary badge. So that kind of a scenario. Or you could just be a verifier, let's say a bookstore who is accepting credentials so that you can offer discounts. If you don't like the Azure portal, you can always use your own application. You can build your own control plane using the admin API. And then we have request APIs for issue and verify experience. And on the right, we also have Authenticator App. That's our wallet. And We also have our wallet library available in generally available mode. So if you have a mobile application and you want to build this experience in your existing mobile app, you can use the wallet library. We're using the same wallet library in the Authenticator app, and this wallet library code is open sourced. So with that, I'm just going to give a high-level presentation on the architecture, and then we'll get to some of the live use cases. So when it comes to how we have implemented the service, as I say, it's a managed service. So you have an issuer presentation service experience. We have the endpoints for that. As a developer, you can call the issuance API or the presentation API. As a issuer or verifier, you have to onboard the key vault service. Any and every transaction that we do is a signed transaction, so key vault is used to get the keys. And then on the client side, we have the wallet library. So we've kept the three architecture goals in mind. We use a decentralized system to request and verify at scale. We need to make sure we follow open standards so that we can offer interoperability. There is a aka.ms/vc interop link that we will share at the end. You can find some details there. And simple REST APIs to issue or request for presentation. Similarly, we have admin APIs as well. So that as a implementer, developer, we are not worried about the complexities around protocol specs. We're just calling an API to issue and verify. And you can build these kind of experiences in your existing applications as well. So with that, let me invite my colleague Karthik to take over and talk about some of the use cases. Karthik?
Yeah, thanks for that, Rohit. I think by this time, if you wake up in the middle of the night, I think you'll have this PPT by heart. Like, so let me talk about the use cases. So yeah, Rohit did the hard part of explaining what is Entra Verified ID and what is actually happening in the backend. I'm going to take over for the funds aspects of how you can leverage this and show you a couple of demos on how you can use this in your environment. So one of the most common use cases that can come up to mind is the onboarding of a user, especially since COVID has happened. People have started going into the office less and less, and there has been more hybrid work or remote work. And when you are getting onboarded remotely, the process of getting onboarded with hard documents of your identity and also providing this, getting verified by a third party verification partner, all of this can be really time consuming. And you cannot ensure that all your data is actually being secure because you are providing PII information on this as well. So, and the other aspect is towards applications. So, I would like to think of Entra Verified ID as it has a lot of different use cases. One main aspect I've always admired about it is when most of the organizations that have a broad consumer space or they have specific vendors that are coming in or B2B or B2C scenarios, your applications that you need to ensure proper credibility before giving access to these users. So this is where Entra Verified ID is really, really powerful, and you will be able to verify incoming users' actual identity and are they who they are from where they're claiming to be, and also still provide them ease of access in a much quicker time. We'll talk about this as well in the coming slides with the demo. And another common use case that has been disturbing a lot of organizations, I'm working with few customers on this as well, is the account recovery, wherein you get tons of help desk calls trying to reset password. Even though you provide automated mechanisms, sometimes you get calls and you need to ensure identity before resetting the password and providing it over call or provide that ease of access. And you can also come up with custom business solutions where you can play around where you need a verified identity before providing access, or you just want to add a layer of verification before providing any sort of access. So before we go to the next slide, I'm going to show a quick demo. And let me just connect my phone as well so you can see what's happening inside the Authenticator app. I hope everyone can see my screen. And also my phone on the side. So consider a scenario where an employee called Matthew is trying to get himself onboarded to Woodgroove. organization called Wood Group, and he needs to do this in a remote way. So before we go a little bit more in depth, I would like all of you to think about a onboarding scenario that you might have had with your companies as well. For myself and Rohit as well to Microsoft, when we got onboarded, we had to provide like physical documents to our onboarding. We did the interviews, and it took a few days, and then after that, you provide your documents, and then this is verified by a third-party verification partner who takes at least a week or so to verify this, and then they come back to Microsoft, tell all of this is fine, and then you get onboarded. So it takes at least 2 to 3 weeks to get onboarded, and then your access starts rolling in, and you don't know what happens to those documents that you've provided as well. So overall, it's like a very time consuming process before you can actually start the work, and also you need to ensure the safety of your documents that you have been providing to a third party vendor. So in this case, Matthew is trying to get himself onboarded to Woodgroove. The first step, he will go into a site that Woodgroove has provided to him, and then he needs to first verify his identity against a third-party verification partner called as True Identity. In this case, we have different sets of verification partners. We'll talk about it in the coming slides. So he goes to True Identity, he provides his details, and Woodgroove has asked True Identity to verify these documents, a government issued ID, and also to take a selfie. So once both of these are done, he will receive a QR code. I'm sorry. And because of the short screen sharing time, it is reduced.
So I think in a quick summary, so that all of us are following. So we started speaking about an onboarding scenario. A user was told, "Hey Rohit, when you come in, please make sure that you are done with the identity proofing process." Karthik was explaining that, so I'm going to take it from there, and I'm going to talk about uh, the true identity identification process. So, as a user, let me just fit it like that so that it doesn't kill the whole screen. I think now the view should be okay. So as a user, I went through a model where I clicked on the first step, which is verify with true identity. This could be any of the identity proofing services that we have. The service is asking me to take a selfie, blink my eyes. It can do liveness check, and then it can ask me to do an upload of the government document. It will do a cognitive services scan, OCR scan, and then it will come back with the result. If you look at the background verification today, everything happens in the background. Uh, Today, HR will do it in the background, but in this whole flow, user gets to see the result. User can scan this QR code and accept this acknowledgement in the form of a verified ID. Since it's a secure process, we have a pin on the screen. We are trying to secure this remote process because user is using the web browser on his machine, and the acceptance of QR code on the device. So pin helps in doing that secure remote cross-device flow. It's a demo website, so the pin was printed on the channel, but it could be on an alternate channel like SMS OTP or email OTP. So I got successfully issued this card, and if I double click on this card, I have details around my driving license. Yeah, I was verified. I'm a person who is older than 21. Now I can go back to my onboarding application, and I can tell it to the onboarding application, yes, I have the blue card, which is step number 2, and I can present that to the onboarding employee portal. So what's happening, user in this case just scans the QR code like the first step. The wallet will check, does the user have the right credential? I have multiple such credential. I have this option to present the one which I feel is the latest. So this one is not, this was issued, I think this should still work, but I can go about selecting the one that was issued today. So maybe let me select the one that I just did, and I can click on confirm, and I can click on share. So the user did a acknowledgement that I'm okay to give this credential. User has given the confirmation, and you can see the application in the background within a flash accepted the credential, took the claims, and when I click on continue onboarding, you can say that the user details were taken from the card, and as a process, uh, this could be your HR application, which is integrated with Entra ID or Azure AD. So the claims from the card were used to not only create an entry in the Workday, SuccessFactors, or any such HCM application, but using that existing connector of yours, it could then create a directory object as well. Now, the demo doesn't stop here. The demo is going to the next level. The user can accept a digital version of the employee card. So no need to remember username and password. I also know my employee ID. The demo says my employee ID is 9025, and that's the PIN to accept my digital employee badge. I click on next. I have this verified employee VC available. I can click on add, and I can accept a credential. I can now use it to maybe use my card to order a laptop for myself. And this link, Visit Prosware, could be a third party which can offer me discounts if I present my employee credential. Um, it could be my, let's say, benefits application. It could be like a bookstore or a cafeteria. Your employer may have a cafeteria which can offer discounts if you present a verified employee from the organization. So you can see the application accepted the credential, took the claims like I'm employed at Woodgrove, and then the business logic was it applied the discount. So that was a quick scenario. I'll pass it back to you, Karthik.
Yep. Thanks for taking over, Rohit. Let me share my screen again.
So we have a couple of questions from the chat about that demo that I'd love to run past you both. So the example that you showed uses the Microsoft Authenticator application. And the question is, does it support scenarios where there is no Authenticator app? And if so, can you give some examples of other applications or how this might be used where there is no Authenticator app?
Great. So if you recall the slide I had mentioned, the service offering that we have, Authenticator has a wallet library component, and that wallet library component is open source. So you can build your own mobile app. So we're not saying it to the customer that you have to use Authenticator, but what we have seen, billions of users are using Authenticator app for MFA and passwordless scenarios. So it can help you jumpstart things very quickly. But Authenticator app is not a mandatory requirement. You can build your own mobile app. If you look at the latest GitHub repo, you can just, let's say, an Android SDK library, you could just use Android Studio, and there's a sample wallet available. So you plug and play, and you can get started very quickly.
Okay, great. So, for example, if if it's going to be a common scenario like you've shown with requesting access to your company benefits or buying new devices, then that would potentially probably be just a web app. But because you're using Authenticator app on your device for passwordless authentication, it would make sense to use that. Whereas, yes, customers can, if they want to, for various other scenarios and examples, actually build it into their own app. That's completely supported and fine.
Absolutely. And we have some applications that do exist in iOS and Android Play Store. Some of our partners have built such wallets as well. Very soon we'll share an AKMS link of our documentation library. You can look for the partner gallery page, and it has links for some of the partners who, like, for example, Spherion has a wallet in the respective stores. So they built a sample app. You can easily build your mobile app as well. Bring in the experience in your existing mobile apps as well. So all such patterns are possible.
Amazing. So we can meet customers and those people listening, if they're a partner or a consultant, they can meet their customers where they are. So with the scenarios whether they have the Authenticator app or not, or want to build something custom, that's fully supportable and Absolutely. Sounds like a great place to meet our customers. Great. There was another question that we got from Tim Springsteen. So hi, Tim Springsteen. The scenarios that I'm hearing, I'm speaking as Tim, the scenarios I'm hearing are employer and employee driven, and that's what we've touched on here. If you're going to touch on this later, that's great. He's asked, is there any thought or support of social identities to business scenarios, so B2C style?
No, great question. So we have a bunch of use cases. So you will see us talking about not only B2E scenarios, the employer scenarios, but we will cover B2C scenarios as well, like loyalty programs and loyalty benefits, movie tickets. There are multiple such scenarios. We also did a project with one of our Microsoft events. When you sign up for a Microsoft event, usually, if you remember the experience of a Microsoft event sign up, you will use a B2C flow, bring in your social ID to create an account, and then you can participate in an event, use it to log in and set in your preferences, use the scheduler, and so on. What if I allow you to sign up using a VC and then sign in using a VC? So there are multiple such patterns that are available, but we'll cover that as we go in the deck.
Awesome, thank you. So thank you, Tim. I've just realised that is Tim Springston. Hi, Tim. Nice to see you here. So yeah, we'll go through those and then keep your questions coming. It's really great to hear from you. So yeah, let's run through this worker productivity flow.
Okay. Thanks for that, Rohit and Grace. And just to add on that B2E and B2C scenario, we'll be covering that anyway. But I also worked with a couple of the customers on their requirements on a B2C specific flow. One more use case that comes to mind, and I can share is like even for pharmaceutical companies or like any of the consumer facing companies, they wanted to verify the identity before giving any sort of access to specific apps. It can be any of the apps. It doesn't necessarily need to be the employee driven. It can be consumer focused, and this was very useful for one of the customers who felt this is what they needed for the verification aspect of it. So on towards the worker productivity. So from the demo that Rohit just displayed, it talks about the scenario where you can minimize the efforts of an onboarding scenario and get anyone onboarded within a matter of minutes, and also receive a new verified identity that you can leverage to access applications where you can use employee discounts and other aspects. So the flow that we talked about, where an employee accepts a job offer and where it takes weeks to go through this flow chart that you're seeing. They have to visit the employee portal in this case, and then the identity is verified by the third party identity verification partner known as True Identity in the demo. And they receive a verified ID after verifying their selfie and also the government issued ID that they provided. They start the first day of work and they go and get a new verified credential to set up their account. They receive their new verified ID in their Authenticator app again. Uh, as Rohit mentioned, it doesn't necessarily have to be the Authenticator app. You can build your own wallet application as well. They go through the trainings, get the necessary access, make sure they're compliant, and then, as all of us, we need to order in any of the equipments that we need to start our day-to-day work, be it remote. So they go to the the company portal, and then they try to log in instead of using the legacy methods of just using a username and password. They use the verified credential, and then they are able to get the employee discounts as soon as the verified identity is uh, verified across the blockchain, and the signature is also cross verified. So this is one of the use cases, and we saw the demo on this. And then the other one that I was talking about is the secure access to applications. So this touches upon the B2B, B2E, and also B2C scenarios. Almost all of the organizations, they have specific applications that they need some sort of additional layer of security or sensitivity before giving access. Uh, the authentication layer is one, but you would need certain additional verification of the identity itself of the incoming users. So that is where this helps a lot. So if you are a vendor or if you are working with someone on initial discussion of verified identity and the deployment of it, it will be great to understand what are the applications that they're using right now, and then try to gauge where they'll need additional layer of verification and the identity needs to be verified. So this will give a good idea about like where verified identity can be leveraged, in addition to the normal use cases that we are talking about, the remote onboarding, account recovery. The secure access to applications is a very important one. So in this case, if you identify an application, as Rohit was talking about, consider maybe a pharmaceutical organization, and they want to verify the age of the incoming person before they order any sort of prescription medication, or they want to ensure that this is not something that is being sold to someone who's not actually who he or she claims to be. So in that case, you can add an additional layer where they bring in their verified ID. It can be a verified ID from a government issued identity, or it can be from an employee as well, as long as the claims are having the date of birth and the necessary information. So the application can provide a QR code wherein the incoming user or the consumer in this case can scan this and then provide the verified ID, which will provide the details of the date of birth and also the details of where they're living, etc., so that they can be verified. And then they'll be provided access to that specific application and they can order in whatever they need. So that provides an additional layer of this. So once again,
Another demo. And so this time, as what Karthik was explaining, uh, I'm going to play a scenario where I need to get a secure access to an app, and the application may prompt me to present a specific VC. I'm going to show you that demo. What I'm going to show you as a next step is this particular VC or the set of VCs that I have on my phone. Uh, my partner can use this phone and also present the VC. How we can make sure we add an additional layer of check on top of when the user presents the VC. If you have not seen the Microsoft Build session, we had talked about that at Build as well. So think of this Northwind airline scenario, and this could be that B2C's case where I use airlines loyalty points, but the airline can only give me access to, let's say, a lounge or a bunch of benefits when I prove them that, yeah, I am employed at this organization or I have a specific VC. So they can easily build this experience where the airlines can throw me a challenge. For simplicity, I am using the Authenticator app. I'm going to scan this QR code, and this is a presentation challenge. The wallet will respond to it. And if you see, the wallet is giving me two options now. Wallet is saying to me that I need to select a verified ID from the list of matching credential. So I can pick, let's say, my employer gives me an option to get some benefits at this airlines portal. So I can present my verified employee card as a demo. And there's another extra step that you see, which is that step up check. So what this is doing, it is doing a face check match. So it is asking me to take a live selfie. It is doing a liveness check. And when I click on share, the application will actually uh, take the details from the, oh, so it's see, you can see it's not a fake demo. Could not see my eyes because there was a glare. So I'm going to do this demo again. I will take out my specs this time. And when I click on share, scan and share this time, I'll select my verified employee credential. And so I'm going to select my Microsoft employee. It has a photo claim. And this time when I do a face check, and click on share, you can see the application was able to take details from the verified employee credential. And also it was able to do a face check confidence score match. So if you need to know more details about it, please do watch the Microsoft Build session where we have talked about that in detail. So that was our second use case, how you can make sure the user can get secure access to apps. I'm going to pass it back to Karthik to talk about another use case. Karthik?
Yeah, thanks for that, Rohit. I think I just pissed off the demo gods today.
So if you could bring your screen share on the stream. Yeah.
So, yeah, hope my screen is visible. So, I'm going to talk about the next demo use case, which is account recovery. So, this is something that I recently worked with a customer of mine on. So, basically, consider a scenario where they're getting numerous help desk calls, even though you have some sort of automation mechanism to reset the password, but still employees wanted to just couldn't figure out the right way, and they call the help desk, and this created a lot of tickets, and then you need to verify before giving access to resetting a password and providing them the access over a call. So in this case, they wanted to ensure it is secure. I'll also show a video which kind of maximizes this effort and moves it into passwordless as well. But so the main use case would be trying to automate this while verifying the identity of the user, only then providing them the right password, or it can be anything like a temporary access pass as well. So before we talk more about this in depth, let's see a demo. So in this case, consider a user who's getting onboarded to Wood Group using the same methods, and they have to log in to their newly uh, delivered laptop, and they want to receive the first password, and they want to remove the dependency of calling the manager and getting the first password through a phone call, and they want it to be secure as well. So in this case, the user is provided with the portal where he or she can verify their identity. In this case, they first verify their identity with the third party verification partner. They do the same checks, provide a selfie, provide the government issued ID. Once that is verified, instead of being presented with a QR code, since they're accessing it from the mobile, they'll be automatically redirected to the Authenticator app when they click on Add Credential. So they click on that, open the Authenticator app, and it provides the option to add the verified ID into their wallet. Now they go back to the portal and go back to Woodgrove. Say to Woodgrove, hey, I verified my identity. Now I want to be onboarded. So they present this to Woodgrove. Again, it redirects to the Authenticator app, and it shows the identity that they want to choose. They choose the true identity one, click on share, and once this is verified, they go back to the portal, and with a nice use of business logic in the backend and leveraging lifecycle workflows, the user receives a temporary access pass. So consider an organization who's moving completely into passwordless. This is much more useful because from the day of the initial onboarding, they get a temporary access pass, and then they open their laptop, they do the initial checks, and then they try to log in with their ID. And without having the need to enter the password from day one, they enter the temporary access pass. And once they enter the temporary access pass, they have Windows Hello for Business policy already enabled for the user. So Windows Hello for Business kicks in and the user becomes completely passwordless throughout the lifecycle. So this is a very interesting and very advanced scenario, uh, which has impressed quite a few customers, and they're really happy about this because, yeah, as more and more passwords are going out of the place, which can be lost in phishing and a lot of the other malicious ways where the security is low, and that is why we keep adding more layers of MFA, conditional access, and everything. So ultimate security goal would be to come out of this phishing resistance passwords and then come up with a passwordless scenario. So in this case, this is pretty much useful where you can leverage a temporary access pass for a one-time use to the laptop and then start leveraging Windows Hello for Business after that. So on to the next slide. So there is this feature is GA right now. So we have consider a scenario where a guest user wants to get access, is trying to get access to certain applications. You create an access package for this and then provide it to the guest user. But also, what you can do with this in entitlement management along with verified ID is you can create a link it to a logic apps wherein once the user is only verified with a verified identity and it is approved by a verifier, the necessary details can be added to the user's repository. So this is a pretty cool feature where you can decide who should be the verifier in case of there are a lot of multiple verifiers and you want to choose, okay, I want only this verifier to be the right one, and only then I'll provide access to this specific group of users. So in that case, you can leverage this functionality. You can provide more granular, fine-grained access, and also with the you can reduce approval fatigue where people can just go ahead and simply approve certain things. So in this way, you can verify what are the incoming users, have they actually done this by ensuring that who they are instead of just going through the process and just accepting an access package. And one more, yeah, Rohit.
Karthik, I think if you click on hide, I think the screen can be fully on the view.
Yeah.
What I would like to add, so think of scenarios where you have an access package that has bunch of data science applications as resources. So the first step would be obviously the user clicks on the access package link to get access to the resource by uh, going through that authentication flow. But you, as a resource owner, you would like to know: are you the right data scientist? Have you completed a specific training? This is a critical application that requires you to prove that, let's say, you are a resident of uh, UK. So if you need to bring in such attributes that don't exist in the directory, think about verifiable credentials, think about verified ID, and you can see that this use case will make a lot of sense. So the user is authenticating, so you get information from the directory, but you are passing extra attestation about the subject, so the approver can then take meaningful decision. Along with that, there could be a scenario where you may want to take that claim set information from verified ID to update such properties or some properties. We will see that in a demo. But let's say if I know that Rohit's project ID is ABCD123 and it was presented as a part of a verified ID, I can, as a part of this request flow itself, take that information and maybe trigger a logic app that can update a backend database. So this scenario is very powerful in bringing such kind of collaboration scenarios to life. Back to you, Karthik.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rohit. And with that explanation, let me try to show the demo, and you can see it in action how it works. So in this case, sorry, in this case, we are first creating a custom extension which will link to the logic app, which will later uh, pick up the claims from the verified ID and then add it to the directory when the approver approves it. And then we go to the access packages, create a new access package, give a name and a description, choose the right catalog. Then this is meant to be for a group of users, so you choose a specific group, choose the owner for users in the directory for all users, and you add an approver. In this case, it'll be Megan. Choose the right approver, and then you try to add the specific verifier. And as you can see, this is pretty cool where you can choose in the verifier from the list of verifiers. And you add in some additional information that you want to ask and choose the need for access reviews, link it to the specific custom extension that we created, which will link to the logic app. And here's a quick snippet of the logic app wherein it will try to pick up the claims and then try to link it to the directory when the approver approves it. So now let's look at the flow. We are logged into Woodroof and the user tries to log in, and they are presented with a QR code where they need to provide their employee verified ID. They present this, and once they provide in the necessary details that we asked about in the same access packages, they'll ask for the specific project ID, and then they share this. Now let's look at it from the approver scenario. So the approver goes to the pending approvers tab, sees what is coming in, you review it, and if you look at the request details, you can actually see those details that are picked up from the verified ID that Rohit has provided. So, and once the approver approves it, it is empty right now. You can see the value. So the approver will go and approve it. And if you go back to the directory, you can see that before that, you can look at the request history if it was approved. And once you go back and refresh this, you can see that the value is updated from the verified ID. So this is a very good use of verified ID once again, and this is currently in GA. So if you think of B2B scenarios and you want to make sure the people who are coming in are they who they claim to be, only then you want to provide the access. So you can leverage this right now for your organization. So
Thanks, Karthik. I'll take over and
yeah.
let me just talk a little bit more how you can get started. So we've spoken about a bunch of use cases, some from the B2E world, some from how you can take your verified ID to the retail app or applications that are not federated. But I would like you to keep one rule of thumb in mind. So we are talking about verified ID as a set of attestations about the subject. So information which was not in the directory, but my relying party needs that so that it can make meaningful decisions. So how do you get started with this whole concept? We have some demos, samples available. If you have not seen our GitHub repository, there's a AKA MS link on the screen, and we'll push it on the stream as well. You can get started with samples right from get-go. There are samples available in .NET, Python, Node, Java. If you want to just play with the APIs, there is a Postman folder, and we have a collection available both for request and admin API. We also have some B2C samples. One of our attendees was asking about how do I do B2C scenarios. I gave an example of bringing verified ID to applications that understand B2C. Uh, could be like that events application or loyalty membership application. So you can use those samples as well. There are more such scenarios that you can use. Hiring could just not be for an employer, but it could be contractor, benefit, onboarding. We have seen organizations from insurance sector using it for new customer onboarding. You can also look at access scenarios. I spoke about, let's say, if you have a visitor pass management system at your office today. Today, the security guard or security person or the administrator at the reception does a physical inspection of a government document proof. But it's always a physical inspection. Why can't I just make sure that they get to present their VC or verified ID, and I get to see and attested information about that individual? From a worker scenario, it could be discounts, contractor onboarding, annual benefits, even the alumni scenario. I did a bunch of trainings, so I should be allowed to take those trainings with me and those digital artifacts. So you can offer those as alumni benefits, proof of employment, certifications, uh, and the badges that we talk about, those could be in the form of verified IDs as well. If you're I spoke about training, licensing, certification scenarios. You can, if you are, let's say, a SOC analyst, or you're building some managed services model, you're managing customer environments, you can easily use that too. A common scenario that we are seeing from customers is help desk management. Today, when you have a laptop issue and you don't have any other digital system, you just call up at a number and the help desk person would tell you, hey, can you tell me your employee ID? And that's the only verbal acknowledgement that happens today. Um, can I not make it better by adding this verified process in the mix where the user can be sent a link uh, and the user can then present their, let's say, a verified employee VC or a true identity VC. So then we get to know who that real person is and then offer the required service that could be password reset, device management, and so on. So there are many such scenarios. If you'd like to know more, please look at the link that will be shared on the chat around our documentation. There are a bunch of scenarios to it. I mentioned there are samples available for .NET, Java, Node, Python, so you can get access to it. There are a bunch of case studies that are available. You can look at these short links and go through some of the patterns. Um, I'll just go through the last set of slides. So we are building something which is of ease of use today. We're moving towards performance and scale, and we are also contributing to diff. If you would like to kickstart this whole journey and you need some partner support, there are a bunch of partners available. You can find that information on our documentation website as well. So with that, I'm going to pass over the control back to Grace.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And as Tim pointed out in the chat, account recovery and onboarding scenarios, especially for passwordless with TAP, sounds just like a no-brainer for every enterprise. And not just because it can be, I mean, I personally know it could be so frustrating to try and regain access, but also it really hardens that whole chain of events in a remote world with an increasing risk of social engineering. And that's, of course, before, without forgetting the entitlement management integration, which I love for guest access for external collaboration. It's so great for that approval fatigue of internal colleagues, as well as for all your compliance needs. So thank you very much to Karthik and Rohit for that very insightful session. Please let us know if you deploy this, give it a try, or if you have any scenarios that you're going to, test out. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the 425 Show on LinkedIn and YouTube. And please let us know in the comments any other questions or feedback if you're listening back. So we have an exciting episode next Wednesday on the 4th of October about the Microsoft Entra rebrand. So don't miss that. And followed by our monthly Microsoft Entra ID product update series on Wednesday, the 11th of October. So that's all for now. We can't wait to see you next time. Thank you very much for tuning in. See you later.